Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Wednesday, June 30th. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. It's never wanted, but politicians always say it is needed. And come tomorrow, you may feel another financial pinch at the pump. KPBS reporter Alexandra Rangel is live in La Mesa to explain what's behind this latest gas tax hike. What can you tell us, Alexandra?
We're outside of the Costco gas station here in La Mesa. Behind me, you can see people waiting in line and pumping gas. This is usually where people come to save money, as the gas tends to be a little cheaper here. And with the holiday weekend approaching, this gas hike couldn't come at a worse time as people are getting ready to travel and hit the road. We spoke to a lot of locals who aren't too happy about the tax hike.
They're too much, too high.
Every day, everything is up and up.
Starting Thursday, the state's gas tax will once again go up by a few cents, bringing the overall excise tax to 51.1 cents per gallon. With gas prices hitting close to the $5 mark, Californians are feeling the brunt in their wallets. We found San Diegan Tom Williams at the pump today, who says he's done paying for overpriced fuel.
I myself am going to go ahead and buy a hybrid car next week because of the rise in gas prices. I have to drive my car for work.
The automatic increase is due to Senate Bill 1 passed by lawmakers in 2017, allowing for gas to go up in order to pay for road and bridge work.
From what I've seen, I don't know how much maintaining of the roads they're doing.
The excise tax is placed on the fuel, and then we pay at the pump the sales tax that goes on top of that.
There may be some hope for Californians. Senator Brian Jones, along with Republican colleagues, is proposing to suspend the excise gas tax for a year.
For the governor to use his executive powers to waive the excise fee for the next year and use some of the multiple billion-dollar surplus that the state is proposing in the budget this year and backfill that excise tax.
Jones says suspending the tax will help families recover from the hardships of the pandemic. Local resident Don Becker agrees. He spends nearly $300 on diesel every week.
The pandemic it set me back, It set me back. I'm trying to catch up now, see what happens, in the next few months.
Senator Jones says lawmakers sent a letter to the governor over a week ago, and they have yet to hear a response, but they're hoping to gain a little bit of more support and hopefully save people some money at the gas pump. For now, reporting live in La Mesa, Alexandra Rangel, KPBS News.
We have some breaking news involving that tortilla throwing incident at a high school championship basketball game. Coronado High School's team has lost its title. After a review, the CIF State Executive Director found actions by Coronado High against Orange Glen High to be unacceptable and warrant sanctions. The Orange Glen team is made up of mostly Latino players. The director says the sanctions must be met with a change in actions, and it should come with empathy for those who are on the receiving end of this type of degrading and demeaning behavior. Coronado High is also on probation through the 2024 school year. Student athletes, coaches, and administrators must complete racial cultural sensitivity training. Hate crime in California reached its highest reported level in more than a decade last year. The report released today by Attorney General Rob Bonta shows a doubling of crimes against people of Asian descent and a nearly 90% jump in those targeting Black people. The highest number of events against the AAPI community were reported in March and April, when lockdowns were first ordered.
It was also about wondering whether you or someone you love would be attacked simply because of the way you look. And while the pandemic may be receding for now, that other fear still resides within us, within our Asian American community generally.
The Attorney General says he's encouraging law enforcement to build relationships within the community to prevent these crimes and make sure people know where to report them. San Diego City Council members say it's time for action on racial disparities in policing. This after another report outlined how Black and Latinx people are stopped by police more often. Race and equity reporter Christina Kim tells us what the council wants to do next.
Council members want data-driven policy changes and ongoing community conversations. Council member Jolla says the time for action is now.
With the completion of the CPE report, I think we have to give studies a break and turn our attention to action.
This report was released earlier this month. It is one in a series that shows racial disparities in San Diego policing. It found police are more than 4 times as likely to pull over a Black San Diegan for a non-traffic violation than a white person. That's even when controlling for factors like poverty or crime rates. When the report was published, Police Chief David Nislight told KPBS he was not surprised, but he stopped short of saying these findings are evidence of discrimination.
Disparities are going to exist because everything in society doesn't happen along the demographic line. And until that happens, you're going to have disparities. And that's why it's important to understand that disparity does not equal discrimination.
More than 25 community members gave public comments during the meeting. Many, like Ahmad Mahamud, say they want to see an end to pretext stops and consensual searches. Mahamud is critical of Chief Nislight's response.
It doesn't make any sense to me at all how the chief police can say that disparities does not equal discrimination. That's basically on the verge of erasure of our experiences as non-white people in this city that have to deal with the constant over-policing, especially by the gang suppression unit.
In response to the report, which the police have had since March, the department will be releasing a new consent search policy in the coming weeks, something community members and city council members are eager to review. Christina Kim, KPBS News.
Bill Cosby is a free man. The now 83-year-old comedian and actor had his sexual assault conviction overturned by Pennsylvania Supreme Court. It found an agreement with a previous prosecutor prevented him from being charged in the case. Cosby was sentenced in 2018 to 10 years in prison for drugging and sexually assaulting a woman at his home 14 years ago. Several other women had made similar accusations. Prosecutors cannot appeal the High Court's decision.
This was and still is an important fight for justice. And even though the court overturned the conviction on technical grounds, as you just said, it did not vindicate Bill Cosby's conduct, and it should not be interpreted as a statement or a finding that he didn't engage in the acts of which he's been accused.
Cosby was once considered America's dad for his role as Cliff Huxtable on the long-running and popular Cosby Show. Legal trouble ahead for the Trump Organization. The Manhattan DA's office is expected to hand down tax crime charges. The Wall Street Journal reports the company's chief financial officer, Alan Wieselberg, will also be charged. The Trump Organization has been under investigation for tax-related fraud in connection with benefits awarded to employees, including school tuition, cars, and rent-free apartments. A lawyer for the former president says he does not believe Trump himself will be charged. La Jolla will not have a 4th of July fireworks display this year. KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson says the boosters don't have all the permits.
Fireworks will not be shot off at Ellen Browning Scripps Memorial Park in La Jolla this year. San Diego officials say the boosters who raised the money for the event likely don't have enough time to get all the permits before July 4th. The Sierra Club's Richard Miller says that's good news for people worried about the impact on the nearby sea lion rookery.
We're very happy with that. We've always thought that that may be one of the requirements for the fireworks there at the Cove.
City officials say the event needs a park use permit, a coastal development permit from the Coastal Commission, and a pyrotechnics permit. The Coastal Commission permit could take up to 2 months. Money issues and the pandemic kept the fireworks from happening since 2017. Miller says the sea lion rookery was recognized in 2019.
The environmental situation there has changed dramatically, and I don't think they've took that into consideration.
KPBS reached out to the La Jolla Community Fireworks Foundation. They did not return calls seeking comment. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
Many more fireworks shows are scheduled once again this year after being canceled because of the pandemic. San Diego firefighters are encouraging people to go to shows like the Big Bay Boom instead of setting off illegal fireworks at home. Last year, the department received 323 calls of illegal fireworks, up from 76 in 2019. All consumer fireworks are illegal in the county because of the risk of injury and the risk of starting a fire, and that includes sparklers.
Sparklers burn very, very hot, and a lot of kids use them because they're very small, minimal, gives off a nice spark. They're very pretty, fun to play with, write your name in the sky. The problem is they do burn hot and they cause a lot of burn injuries to the eyes and the arms.
You can drop off fireworks at any local fire station in the city of San Diego with no questions asked. President Biden is citing climate change as a driving factor in the threat from wildfires, drought, and the heat wave scorching western states.
Right now, we have to act and act fast. We're late in the game here. The truth is, we're playing catch-up. This is an area that has been under-resourced, but that's going to change if we have anything to do with it. We can't cut corners when it comes to managing our wildfires or supporting our firefighters.
During a virtual meeting with Western state governors, the president announced a plan to hire more federal firefighters and raise their pay to guarantee they make at least $15 an hour. Governor Gavin Newsom said he is pleased to be working with the White House rather than as, quote, sparring partners, as he described California's relationship with the Trump administration.
With due respect to those that don't believe in science, you got to believe your own damn eyes. Observed evidence. You know, when you look at that thermometer, 117, 119 degrees up north, we were 123 down in Palm Springs 2 days ago, 111 just 48 hours ago. There's no Republican thermometer, no Democratic thermometer. These realities are here with us today.
Right now, firefighters are battling several fires across California, including the lava fire in Shasta Trinity National Forest. It has grown to more than 17,000 acres and is 19% contained.
We still have a little bit of lingering moisture in Southern California, mainly in the mountains, though. A few showers will still be possible there. And generally speaking, in some of the interior sections, we're going to see temperatures on the rise yet again. So water vapor imagery really showing where all that moisture is. So where you see those dark colors of blues and even the whites especially, that's where the moisture really is rich. And again, you can see it's mainly up in the Sierra Nevada and some of the higher terrain here in the mountains, and that's where it's likely going to remain with some drier conditions near the coast. Temperatures for tonight in the metro falling off into the mid to upper 60s under partly cloudy skies out there, and that's what we're going to see near the coast. Temperatures generally in the mid 60s. Once you get a little bit further inland, we're down into the low 60s in Escondido, upper 50s out towards Ramona. Borrego Springs, one of our warmer spots, 75 degrees for your overnight low. And Thursday into Friday, we'll continue to see that heat into northern and central portions of California, but not so much the further south you get. You can see those scattered storms coming in with that moisture out of the east, and that's why I mentioned it's still possible that we get a couple showers mainly in the higher terrain up in the mountains. Temperatures for your Thursday getting up into the mid 70s towards Oceanside. 109 again in Borrego Springs as temperatures do recover back up into those triple digits, well up there in the triple digits, I should say. El Cajon getting up to 87 degrees. And near the coast, temperatures are going to stay pretty similar over the next couple of days. We're talking about mid 70s, a little bit of low hanging cloud cover through the morning hours, but plenty of sunshine as we head into the afternoon. Further inland, mid 80s, also not a whole lot of change here. But again, it's going to be really warming up in the desert. In the mountains, temperatures are going to be in the mid 70s Thursday, Friday, fall off to about 70 degrees on Saturday, and then recover for the weekend and into next week. And in the desert, we go from 109, then 106, and then back up to 110, 110, 112 as we head into your next work week. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Jessica Pash.
To mask or not to mask? An increasingly confusing question thanks to the Delta variant, even for the vaccinated. Officials in LA and Illinois are suggesting even the vaccinated should mask up. Lucy Kafanoff has more on the recommendations from health experts.
If you are not vaccinated, then you are in trouble. This is, again, a serious threat, and we're seeing it spread among unvaccinated people.
A stark warning from the Surgeon General. But as the more transmissible COVID-19 Delta variant continues to spread, the guidance from the CDC for now remains the same.
If there is a shift in the evidence base in the science, then they will update their guidance accordingly.
If you're vaccinated, you are safe from the variants that are circulating here in the United States.
For parents of young, unvaccinated children, this advice.
I think it's very reasonable for parents who are living with kids who are unvaccinated, or for that matter, other family members who are unvaccinated, to consider wearing a mask.
According to the CDC, the Delta variant accounting for more than a quarter of COVID-19 cases across the country. The daily pace of vaccinations slowing, down to roughly a third from what it was 2 months ago. Health experts concerned about the growing divide.
It's almost like it's going to be two Americas. You're going to have areas where the vaccine rate is high, where there's more than 70% of the population has received at least one dose.
Health experts worried the rise and spread of more transmissible variants could make it even harder to reach herd immunity. New polling shows most U.S. adults who plan to get vaccinated have already done so, with 77% of vaccinated adults saying everyone in their household is vaccinated, while 75% of unvaccinated adults said no one they live with is vaccinated.
If you want to read more about vaccinations and where to get one, you can find all the information on our website, kpbs.org, and click on the vaccines link that you can find on our homepage. The summer travel season is in full swing, with many people wanting to just get away now that the pandemic restrictions have been lifted. But the travel industry is not quite ready for the pent-up demand. In a matter of days, airlines have canceled hundreds of flights. Rachel Kim reports on what travelers can expect.
If you do not have a boarding pass, please report back to the ticket counter to obtain one.
Summer and holiday travel is picking up and taking off, but some travelers are finding themselves unexpectedly grounded.
We were supposed to leave at 8:30 this morning. Now we're leaving at 2:30. No notification they were canceling the flight, nothing.
When Jason King checked in 16 hours before his family's flight to Kansas City, he found out his flight had been canceled and rebooked.
It would have been nice to have a notification, hey, we're going to rebook you, is this okay? And you know, and it was so last minute, you don't even have time to rebook another flight. There's nothing available. So we just scrambled and had to take what we got.
We have a perfect storm of pent-up demand and understaffing happening at the exact same time, not just at the airline level, but hotels, restaurants, almost every sector of the travel industry.
CBS News travel editor Peter Greenberg says we're seeing airlines canceling flights because they know they simply don't have enough people to operate them.
The airlines brought all their planes out of the parked status, but you can't just kick the tires and turn on the ignition key. You've got to retrain these pilots. It's standard operating procedure, whether we had a pandemic or not. Anytime you're outside the cockpit for a certain period of time, you got to get back in there and requalify.
Greenberg also tells us airlines have added more than 170 new routes in the U.S. in the last 3 months, so that's making it harder for them to maintain. Dominic Wilbert and his family just found out there's been a change to their travel plans.
We have a layover for a whole day in Texas tomorrow, and we have to wait a whole 24 hours to get on another plane to get back to Virginia Beach.
All the travelers we spoke with said they were shocked to see the price of their tickets. Experts say as the country and world reopens, a spike in leisure travel is fueling the rising travel costs.
You need to book now, but not just for the summer. Book now for September, which is the great magic month when you're going to see some really great deals.
An act of kindness has grown into an operation to help people experiencing homelessness. KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne introduces us to a woman who's running and funding a shelter out of a motel in Carlsbad.
And I'll finish this.
Vanessa Graziano didn't expect to be running a homeless shelter. She starts each day at the Carlsbad Village Inn Motel, where one of the rooms serves as an intake office. Here, coffee is served daily and meals are planned.
We have dinner being provided from Jewish Collaborative Services. They do it every Monday, and they've been doing it for like 6 months.
This is also where she meets the people who are staying at the shelter to talk about what's going on in their lives.
Depending on what they need, everyone's unique, right? We just find out who they are. I get to know them, their story.
This all started last year when Graziano, who had once been homeless herself, decided to pay for a motel for a family in need. That act of kindness grew into what is now the Oceanside Homeless Resource.
When the COVID hit, we realized we needed to create some kind of shelter and also food service. So I came together with a few people out there and we started this emergency COVID shelter, which absolutely grew.
The one motel room grew to 15 rooms that now house 35 people, including 14 children.
And all the people here are absolutely moving forward.
Originally, Graziano was operating out of an Oceanside motel, but costs forced her to look for a cheaper option, landing her in Carlsbad. Every day, Graziano jumps on social media to ask for donations to keep the shelter running.
Over the last year, we've probably raised over $250,000, and it's just through me, private funding, different churches, local that have come on board. We've had a few grants here and there from private organizations, and so. But honestly, it's, I have to raise $1,000 a day to keep everyone here safe.
Sharna Barron has been at the motel shelter for a couple of weeks after being homeless for 2 years. She needed stability.
When you're on the streets, you can't be stable. I mean, really, you can't. They kick you out. I was sleeping on the benches over at the harbor. They kick you out. I was sleeping on the ground. They got kicked out over there. You can't.
The motel has given Barron a semi-permanent address that helped her get a job. She started last week. Desiree Young is another shelter resident just starting a new job. She and her family are going into their 3rd month at Graziano's shelter. They also needed stability and an address to get her children enrolled into school.
It's hard to get a job or even put them into a school where they have to be going when you move around.
Graziano says she listens to what her clients need, but there are rules they have to follow.
It is a come-as-you-are program, but we are very, if you're on drugs, we really want you to understand you can be here safe, but we're going to get you into detox and recovery because that is the next step.
The nonprofit has been able to move 38 clients into permanent housing. Graziano also connects her clients with resources like county caseworkers and health care. She also arranges employment assistance and transit passes to get them to their new jobs.
Those groups are important because it's grassroots, it's people, it's individuals in the community saying, you know what, I want to do something more in my community. And for, there's just not enough resources.
Miranda Chavez is the Director of Integrative Services at the Community Resource Center in Encinitas. They work with different grassroots organizations like Graziano's. Chavez says small organizations can fill needs that large ones can't.
I think the larger an organization is and the more involved government is, people are wary of it.
Graziano says her clients trust her because she's been homeless.
So I had lived, a pretty successful life in marriage, and I got divorced, and then I stumbled into drugs. And so being able to come on the other side of it and having that lived experience, I do believe my voice is valuable and credible today.
Graziano says she's been clean for 6 years. Her goal is to create a cottage community where her clients can learn job skills to prepare them to live on their own. Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
California's beaches got mostly good marks in a new Heal the Bay survey, but a pair of San Diego beaches have some of the state's worst water quality. 3 North County beaches, 2 in Carlsbad and 1 in Solana Beach, landed on the honor roll for excellent year-round water quality. However, 2 beaches near the mouth of the Tijuana River ended up on the other end of the list, among the most polluted. Heal the Bay's Luke Ginger says he looks for some key conditions when he considers swimming in the ocean.
I would want to swim at what we call an open ocean beach. That is a beach that's not enclosed in any sort of bay or harbor or anything like that.
Ginger says it's also important to swim at least 100 yards away from any storm water drains. They carry urban runoff pollution and can pose a health risk. One sign that the U.S. military is slowly reopening. The USO is making its first stops since the pandemic began. KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh says that includes 2 stops here in San Diego.
Live USO events like this one held last night at Naval Base San Diego that included Veep star Matt Walsh had vanished for more than a year.
Let's make sure everyone in the front rows is intelligent.
The USO, known for its live events at bases around the world, turned to virtual events during the pandemic. Bob Kirchen, head of USO West, says part of their job is to combat isolation among troops.
Well, mental resiliency and mental health is so important in the military right now, and it's so incredibly vital that we get folks back out into the world.
Naval Base San Diego is still at Health Protection Condition Bravo, which means not everyone is back to work on base. Sailors who aren't vaccinated are still required to wear masks or avoid the USO event. Roughly half of the U.S. military has been vaccinated, which is not enough to stop the Delta variant, says General John E. Hayden, who is vice chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
But the Delta variant is dangerous, and it is very viral, and we don't have a high level of vaccination yet in this country where we're going to get to, any kind of broad-based immunity.
The vaccination is still optional for troops, so participation varies. The carrier USS Lincoln is deploying with over 90% of the sailors vaccinated. Hayden says the USO is following the rules in place at local bases. This first USO tour started Sunday at the American base at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. The USO makes its second stop in San Diego with the Marines at Miramar tonight. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. I'm Maya Trabulsi. I hope you have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley. And by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.